When I really look at his scrapbook and things and see the Folies Bergère Paris with Josephine Baker. Now, anyone who knows anything about Josephine Baker will know that that's huge. And he was an act. He wasn't, in the chorus, a chorus boy. He was doing his act in 1927. Then my mother was left. No dancing career because half the act. So she acted in repertory theatre a bit. And then the war came and she got back with her sister and went abroad with Ensa. Every night something awful, as an act again. And so literally went abroad for quite a few years, right up behind the enemy lines, entertaining the troops.
Wow.
His trademark was having elastic legs and winding them round and doing...
That's right.
And so look how someone's captured that, which is wonderful.
That's incredible.
This is a poster.
This is,
that would have been outside the Folies Bergère in Paris when he performed there with Josephine Baker, and he was there for a while. But as you see, Folies Bergère Paris.
On this week's show, I have the daughter of one of the greatest eccentric dancers and mime artists of the 1920s and 30s, who was inspirational to many, and his dancing and energy levels were on another level. He was also known as the king of the eccentric dance, and rightly so, as people who witnessed him perform were blown away by his skills. We are going to be delving into the history vaults and taking it back. I'm excited to say we have the daughter of Jack Stanford, also a hugely talented actress in her own right, and has been in shows like EastEnders, Hobie City, The Bill, Crossroads, and films like The Kindling, The House of God, Johnny Two Shoes, and so much more. We have the one and the only Jill Stanford in the cab. Yes, Jill.
Hello, Steve.
Absolute honour to have you in the back of the cab, and I'm really excited to chat, because basically I come across you because I was watching a YouTube video of your dad Jack with his dance from like the early 1930s, and it absolutely blew me away. And when I started to look into your dad's history, he was called the king of the eccentric dancers. And some of the moves he was doing was like literally on another level. So I really cannot wait to talk about, your dad, your mum, and a little bit about you as well. And also at the end of this cab chat, we're going to be going into your house, and you're going to be showing me some old memorabilia from the 1920s and 30s, which I know is going to blow my mind.
It will, I promise. Thank you.
But as I say, it's an absolute honour having you in the cab, and I can't wait to talk history. Let's get straight down to it. Where was your dad originally from? Where did he grow up, as a kid?
Well, he was born in Colchester in Essex.
Oh, he's an Essex boy.
He was born there, yes, yeah. But I don't know how long he stayed there. He spent a lot of time in Yorkshire, and I think he always thought of himself as a Yorkshire boy or man. Because I think the Essex thing was just where the parents happened to be at the time, But he was born in 1900. So just take a moment to take that in.
1900.
Yeah, the 26th of June, 1900.
Wow.
And I was born in, I don't care who knows, 1950. So he was 50 when I was born, which is why I'm still here, basically, and able to talk to you today. Yeah.
When would you say, your dad would have started to, start dancing? I mean, would it have been do you reckon from school, or... how did he get that passion, that ambition?
Do you know, this is a bit of a mystery to me, because obviously you never listen to your parents, do you? You always hope that your kids are going to learn things about you, but I don't exactly know when he started. I've done a lot of research in recent years, which I started in COVID. The earliest picture I've got, which I will show you later, is of a 1917, I think it is, when I think he was 16 at this time, and that was in a sort of Pierrot show, and at that time he was called Charlie Williams, and then he changed his name to Jack Stanford. sometime a bit later, probably around his age of being around 20, maybe 21, but that bit I'm not too sure about.
So we don't really know about why your dad changed his name to Jack Stanford.
No, unfortunately not.
Yeah.
I'm quite glad he did, because I think it's a good name. Someone must have talked to him about it. Maybe there was another Charlie Williams, although of course we know there's a Charlie Williams. Later on there was a Charlie Williams who was the comedian Charlie Williams, but obviously in 1900 there probably wasn't. So I don't really know that. And he was self-taught. How he developed it, again, is a bit hazy, but develop it he did, and obviously look back at eccentric dancers before him, because eccentric dancing didn't start then. There was a whole history of eccentric dance.
Oh yeah, I want to get onto that as well.
Yes,
definitely.
well, probably the best person to speak to about that is the wonderful Betsy Batos in America, because she's doing a whole history of it at the moment and has actually spoken to me about it. But so it's sort of music hall starts and then becomes variety. And with my dad, he just built this act. He built this act, and he must have really built it quickly, because by his 20s he was already a performer at various big venues. Some of it was cabaret, but some of it was variety shows, and because he went all over the world.
I wonder who was actually, inspiring your dad before he was in. I wonder what got your dad hooked into dancing. I mean, because the thing is, Jill, there was no internet, there was no TV back then. So people were probably going to these kind of theatre shows, and people, actors and mimic dancers like your dad, they were the places to obviously go to entertain people. So I wonder how your dad, I wonder who was inspiring him in the early years.
Yes, well, that's a very good question, but I think it's just again, all the other people that were doing it. But I know that what he did was original. This eccentric dancing that he developed, rubber legs.
Was your dad also known as Rubber Legs?
I don't think that was one of them.
What?
The elastic dancer was another thing I've seen. The Pavlova of comedy dancing. I've seen these in the 20s on bills. He was billed as it. I would imagine that somebody else gave him that title, or a newspaper decided that that's what they were going to call him,
And later on, he got called, obviously, the king of the eccentric dancers, which is a huge title, because there's so much amazing talent out there from, the US, the UK. So to be called, the king of the eccentric dancers, that's a big title.
Well, the reviews do say that, and they've put it on posters. And he's got some fantastic reviews. I've got them. It's just too many to read, and of course they're fading a bit now and things. But he has been called some incredible things. Actually, I wish I brought notes so I could actually just tell you.
Yeah, well, when we go into your house, we can have a look at a few of the old photos and a few of the old reviews, which will be amazing to see. So anyone watching this, we're gonna, don't go anywhere, because we're gonna go into Jill's house and go and check out some old memorabilia from the 1920s and 30s.
Mum's as well.
Yeah, and your mum's as well, definitely, because your mum was a seamstress, and she was also a dancer as well, wasn't she?
Well, she was a dancer. She was called the Volanov twins, with her identical twin sister Joan, so my mother Marjorie and Joan, the Volanov twins. And I had my grandmother, who I never met, because she died in her 50s actually, but she was like the archetypal theatrical matriarch mother, putting her daughters on the stage, really.
Wow.
And
so that's what influenced your mum. With her mum, your grandmother pushing your mum forwards.
Yeah. I mean, they went to Fay Compton Studio, which was a stage school of the time, very famous in London. So they were both really good at acting and dancing, not singing. I have to say, nobody can really sing in my family except my daughter. She can.
She's a good singer.
And she was at the London Coliseum, or the act. My mum and her twin, they were at the London Coliseum as an act when they were 17, so they were doing really well as well.
Wow.
And my mum and dad met in Llandudno, or Llandudno, I'm not quite sure of the year, but I think she's around 21, something like that.
You know, talking about, you know, those theatres back then, you know, the theatre was kind of a key place. It was like a hub of creativity. And as I said, you know, there was no TV, there was no internet. Well, I don't think there wasn't any TV back then, was there?
No.
There wasn't, was there? I think it was
Just
only
radio.
electricity.
Radio. Oh, I don't know. I think we're going. I don't think it was that bad, was it? There was telephone. There were cars later.
we might have had radio, but to be honest, you know, that's pretty much as far as it went.
Well,
so these theatres were hubs, and they were places they was really flamboyant. You know, there was beautiful places where people could go to watch, you know, iconic actors and mimic dancers like your dad, which was a huge thing for them to do, you know, because it probably got them away from, you know, the hard times that were going on. So to go along and see performers like your dad must have been quite special.
I mean, I am amazed at how his career shot off, because he did earn big money in the... I have actually got a thing that tells me how much he earned. He's got a little black book.
And it was all cash. But yeah, that's how it was done back then, you know, because it was a cash society. You know, you'd write everything down, you know, to keep account of how much you was actually earning.
Yeah. I suppose the high spot of when I really look at his scrapbook and things and see the Folies Bergère Paris with Josephine Baker. Now, anyone who knows anything about Josephine Baker will know that's huge. And he was an act. He wasn't, you know, in the chorus, a chorus boy. He was doing his act in 1927. And I have this enormous poster, which I'll show you because it is the thing that I really love, which was obviously outside the Folies Bergère, or maybe in the foyer, but it's life size almost. I mean, it's enormous. Maybe not.
Hold on, Jill. So you've got the original poster from then? From
1927.
Wow.
And it's just got the Folies Bergère Paris, and then it's got my father in black, in his sort of pose, one of his poses, and then it's got Jack Stanford, and it's got the artist's name and 1927's.
Well, I can't wait. I cannot wait to see that poster.
You will be impressed. I really need to get it restored. I've been looking at various avenues to get it restored. But
yeah, no, I'm going to be blown away by that poster. I know I am. But the one of the key facts about, you know, also the dancers back then, one of the pivotal points is the way they were actually dressed. You know, so it wasn't about how good also how they was as a dancer, but also how they looked. So, you know, your dad would be wearing, like, you know, these baggy suits to probably exaggerate some of the moves he was doing. You know, any idea of where he was getting his, you know, were they specially made, or was he?
Oh gosh, you are asking me. I mean, oh gosh, I mean, you have to remember that.
Deep.
You're dipping deep.
I mean,
I think it was the style. It was the style, which is why occasionally people have thought that he was someone else. Which I won't go into now, but it's been a bit annoying at times. But I mean, they're wonderful. You can see the difference, though, when you see pictures of him in his, if you like, what you call his mufti, his real clothes, and because I think he was a bit of a jack the lad, to be honest. I mean, he went all over the world. Because his act wasn't spoken, he could perform anywhere. So he, you know, Berlin, before 20s, you know, 30s maybe. Basel, Switzerland, the Greenwich Village Follies, America.
Wow.
I mean, he went everywhere in the 20s and 30s. And I suppose looking at some of it, it says twice nightly, things like that. So I think he moved on from one place to another really quickly.
I wonder how he got there. Was planes weren't huge back then, was they? It's not like EasyJet or somewhere where you could just jump on, pop, and fly out. There wasn't many. People didn't really travel that much at all by plane. So would it have been by plane, or do you think by boat, or a combination?
Oh, I haven't even given that any thought. Goodness me! I think there were some planes. There's a picture of him with one plane, I think, in my scrapbook. But I guess, more or less he would be probably going on boats.
So obviously, dress was really important as well, and the way you looked. But also I noticed as well, your dad actually had his initials on his pocket, JS, which was very, very kind of,
In one of them, yeah.
Yeah. So it's quite impressive to see, the initials as well on the pocket of one of his suits.
And he also had, later on, he had MC for Master of Ceremonies on one of his act things.
Did he used to do a bit of talking?
No, it wasn't that. It was an act where he would dance with pretend fat lady or a thin lady. Just the mime of it, and that was one particular act. This is an act he developed as he got older, because obviously he got older, his stamina to do what you will see in the videos obviously diminished. The two main videos on there are the 35 and 37, 1935, 1937, when you must remember that he was that age himself, 35, 37, and doing that incredible dancing. There's another one which says 1933, which I'm going to be totally honest now. I've looked at it so many times and I've thought, I am not 100% sure this is him. It's like 99. And that's because they say it's 1933. And I'm looking at something that I think is late 20s. That could have been the time he was at the Folies Bergère, or even 1926, 1927. So either it's been labelled wrong. It certainly looks like him, but there's just it's the fact that it says 1933, and I've never wanted to be someone who was sort of claiming something that wasn't true. But but everybody who sort of I've said, "What do you think?" I said, "Oh no, it's definitely him. It's definitely him."
Well, if anyone watching this has got any idea, please leave a note underneath in the comment section. So we can put that right.
No, I'm pretty sure it is, but
also another thing as well, Jill, is that cameras weren't like today where you can film things on your mobile phone and all that. So to actually have had some footage of your dad dancing on stage is also pretty impressive. Back from the late 20s and early 30s. So it was quite important that had been captured.
Yes, no, which is why. If I'd have seen those when I was, when I was growing up, I probably would have, I would say respected him more, but probably would have got him more, because you must realise, born in 1950, he actually already had a duodenal ulcer at that time, although he did seem to get rid of it by a faith healer, but that's what I'm told. And so I never saw him at his best. I certainly saw him perform and went to... in school holidays, went to see Panto or Summer Season, and I would hang out with him because my mother was always working in the West End as a theatrical costumier in Greek Street, so she worked all my childhood. I had a nan who wasn't my real nan, called Mrs. Barrell, who was wonderful, and actually we lived upstairs in Manninson Road and she lived downstairs with her husband, who was a baker, Will. And they were wonderful. They were like my grandparents, because all my grandparents were dead. And so she looked after me, because obviously I don't think I was expected, let's say, at my dad being 50 and my mum. But having said that, they still wanted to, they were still living their lives.
Also, another thing I'd like to talk about as well is the way he danced. It looked like, he was double jointed, because he'd wrapped his kind of right leg over his left leg and do this kind of twist. And was your dad, do you think he was double jointed?
Possibly. I mean, again, you know, I saw a man who was getting older, and yes, he still did some of that stuff, but he couldn't really. I'm sure he did have that. And he wasn't somebody who went around saying, "Oh, look what I can do with my hand," and you know, this, that, and the other. I think he was just very flexible. Whether it's
he was
it's
just
to do with speed. I mean, tapping as well, but. The tap dancing, but the eccentric dancing is to do with speed and illusion, I think. Although, having said that, he definitely did it.
Yeah, well, he done it. He mastered it.
And then there's one video where he actually collapses on the floor at the end.
I see that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he had to have incredible stamina. Unfortunately, that left him soon. You know, and because he smoked.
Well, yeah. I was going to say to you, you know, he had so much natural and so much like energy, but he never looked out of breath. So when you see him perform on stage, you know, I wonder if he done like anything like jogging or keeping fit, or he was literally just dancing all the time. That kept him fit.
Well, I think if you're practicing that all the time, you don't really. I know he liked a round of golf, but I don't think he did any jogging somehow.
One thing I'd like to talk about, I read that, you know, eccentric dance is a style of dance performance in which the moves are unconventional and dates back to the ancient times. And it's like a combination of acrobats, tap dancing, comedy and visual storytelling. There's a few like legendary performers, like obviously Charlie Chaplin, who was also from South London, L. Snakehips Tucker, Ray Bolger, who played the boneless scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz, and you had Wilson Keppel and Betty with their Egyptian style dance, Tony Azito, Joe Bennett. I mean, there was so much talent back then, you know. I mean, we got to give them props for what they was doing. You know, there was so much talent out there, wasn't there? From, as I say, from London, the UK, and also from the States.
Oh, absolutely.
And all around the world. I mean, eccentric dance, it wasn't just a UK or a American thing either, was it?
No, absolutely. I mean, it was something that expressionistic. You expressed yourself. You put the comedy in. You didn't have to. And I think they all looked really different in real life. But once they were doing it, I feel really that I'm not the greatest person to talk to about the history of eccentric dance. As I mentioned before, this woman in America, Betsy Batos, who was a dancer.
Studied it.
Oh, yes.
Another thing as well, like, you know, music also went hand in hand with the performance. So, you know, could you imagine like the moves and the level of, you know, your people like performers like your dad dancing to the energy of the music from now? That would have even been on even another level, you know. I mean, you know, the music back then obviously was so important, and they must have had like a big band and going in time with the dancer and all that. So, you know, music was a pivotal point to their dance as well.
Well, I think there was always you know, the band in the pit, wasn't there?
In the pit.
I think so, in the theatres. I think he would have loved it. I think he would love that his stuff is on YouTube and various places, and that people are taking an interest. He would have been so pleased, you know, because I think that and this obviously because you know, I think he was. I mean, he was proud of what he'd achieved, but I think he hated the fact that, you know, it was going away from him in later life, as you would, because if you have that stamina and then you start to lose it, it must be awful. But he was so creative, and I mean, obviously there's always an element of dancers copying each other a bit, so yes, he probably did get inspiration, but I know that the sort of acts that he created were his own work.
Well, and also a lot of the films back then, there was no sound. They were silent. So you watch things like, you know, some of the early Laurel and Hardy films. You couldn't hear them. So they was mimicking what they was doing as an art form in their acting. Because there was no sound, was there? All you had was some music, and that was it.
No, I'm sure he would love to have actually had a film career that wasn't just his dancing. Because he did go to America. I don't know. I know that there's one that I've never seen, but again, it's not. I remember the film director Michael Winner told me. I saw because I knew him a bit in years ago, but he told me there's a film of your dad. I saw it, or someone showed it to me, with Huey Green, and I think my dad was probably only doing his act because it was about an agent's office, but I've never seen this film. But Huey Green, you know, the guy who did Opportunity Knocks, going back. I think he may have been the office boy in it or something like that. But I remember Michael did say that. But I said, where is it? Give it to me. But this was, again, long before I'd seen any of the dancing films and things. He never wanted me to go into the business, though.
Oh, really?
Oh, no. He wanted me to be an air hostess and speak fluent French. That's where that comes from. That was his thing. So I suppose, talking about the air travel that you were talking about, I think that, you know, that had become the thing. I was very shy as a kid, actually, but once I got to secondary school, I had a wonderful headmistress who saw something in me. And I remember not long before my dad died, I did a speech for him. I'd been learning different monologues and stuff. And he actually said, "Oh, Gilly, I didn't know you were as good as that." And I think that's when he sort of thought it was okay. But if he'd had lived, I don't know if I'd have gone to drama school. I really don't, because I went about a year after he died.
I want to talk about modern day dancing, you know, like street dance or breaking and popping and locking and all that. As I'm sure, like, the originators of those dance styles got their influences from dancers like, you know, like your dad, the mimic dancers, jazz dancers, martial arts moves, acrobats, afro dance, tap dance, and, you know, other styles of dance as well from years and years before. They must have influenced some of the moves that people are doing like nowadays. Oh, you know, I mean, I've seen people doing like head spins, like I think it's the 1940s, and like and the backslide. You know, like the Michael Jackson move. They say the moonwalk, the backslide. You know, that was going off back in the early 1900s or something. That's
particularly, but it is actually documented that Michael Jackson does say that he looked at a lot of old dancers. There's an interview, I think there's one interview where he does mention my dad, but I've yet to find it. Somebody's told me. So yes, he did. I mean, when people say, "Oh," I don't like it when people say, "Oh, Michael Jackson copied this, copied that," because all dancers, there is an element of learning from and changing it, just as there is with fashion.
And putting their twist on it,
just as
and, you know, Michael Jackson was amazing at the moonwalk, you know. I mean, you know, he nailed it big time. And I think it was the guy from Shalimar that taught him that as well. But, yeah, I mean...
But I don't know if he would do it in one long take. That's what I'm saying. Back in the day, when my dad was doing it, you know, they had to go to they couldn't sort of stop halfway through and say, "Oh, I need a bit of a breather. Can we just do this again?" You know, if you're performing to all these people that you've spoken about that were getting, you know, they were going to the theatre getting their kicks from seeing Paul because there was no television, as we spoke about earlier, they're not going to put up. I mean, they were tough audiences in those days, and if they didn't like you, they would throw stuff at you. And,
really?
Yeah, I mean, music hall, it's well documented, really. But yes, they would heckle. I mean, it's a bit like the clubs now, I think, for stand-up comedians.
What if they was no good? They get heckled off stage.
Yeah.
Well, and also your mum as well, you know, as we touched on earlier, you know, your mum was a dancer and also a costume maker as well. So
and an actress.
Yeah. So did she have like a shop on Greek Street as well? Yeah,
very quick how it happened. She was a dancer with her twin sister. They had a really good act at the London Coliseum, as I think I said, and toured and met my father first time when they were in a show together. He wanted to marry her. She, the grandmother put the kibosh in, really, because it would break up their act, the Volanov twins. So they went their separate ways. My dad married somebody else, had my half-sister Suzanne, who lives in America. And then my mother started, once my aunt got married, because in fact she got married first. She married Derek Salberg, who used to own the Alexandra Theatre in Birmingham. So she married him. Then my mother was left, no dancing career because half the act. So she acted in repertory theatre a bit. And then the war came, and she got back with her sister and went abroad with Ensa, every night something awful, as an act again. And so literally went abroad for quite a few years, right up behind the enemy lines, entertaining the troops.
Wow.
And then she came, and my father was, because of his health, because I think he had the duodenal ulcer around that time, he was probably just too old, didn't get called up, but he, was still performing around. When they got back together, literally the first wife, Mary, unfortunately died in the war of TB. So my mother acted for a short while, met my dad. Everybody in the family after the war, various people thought, oh, well, she should be a costumier, because they'd made all their own costumes. The Volanov twins, the wonderful costumes that they had and the outfits, they were really good at it. Seamstressing seems to go back a bit further in that side of the family. So she took over Sally Spruce, which was the name of it, 49 Greek Street. It was on the first floor, and I remember going up there as a kid, getting on the bus from Battersea, when I was really quite young, and sometimes going up there after school occasionally, or by this time my dad would help her out when he wasn't working, things like that. But after he died, she sold out to Nathan's and then worked for them in Shorts Gardens, running their repertory and amateur department.
Covent Garden, yeah.
Yeah. And then after that, at the age of 60, she went to the Royal College of Music and did all the costumes for the opera students, so sort of like a wardrobe mistress, but costumier design, not making particularly, but she had a wonderful eye for colour, my mother, anyway. So she did that till she was 70.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I come from strong matriarchal women in my family, including my my daughter also.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. And let's talk about you as well, Jill. I mean, obviously I suppose that's how you got into acting, through through your mum. And
well, my mum was always very supportive after my dad died and things, and she was great, really, from that point of view. I never wanted to do anything else from about the age of, I don't know, 14, no, earlier. I knew I didn't want to be a dancer because that was too much like hard work. I could never have been that sort of dancer. I mean, I did a bit of dancing, but yeah.
Who was inspiring you as an actor? Or can you say, what do you say nowadays? Is it actress, actor, or what's the terminology for that?
Because I'm in an actors cooperative and I've been in 2 actors cooperatives over my career, I usually say actor.
So it's actor now. Right, I
don't care.
I want to be a bit PC. So
no, I'm an actor. I'm an actor, not an actor. I don't know.
So how, who was inspiring you as an actor? Was there a certain actors?
When I was still at school, and I went to Clapham County School, and my headmistress, as I said, did see something in me early. She even got Zeffirelli's people in to see me for that Romeo and Juliet film where they cast Olivia Hussey and Leonard Whiting when I was about 16, but I had long hair, but I just had it cut in a Mary Quant style. When they went in to see me, I didn't look it at all, and it came to nothing. I mean, but I was a bit similar to her as a young woman, but it was really good that she had that faith in me. And I mean, obviously she knew where I came from, but my dad was really ill at this time, so she was trying to help me, and she helped me find somebody to do some audition pieces with. And anyway, yeah, that's how I knew I wanted to be an actor. I auditioned for RADA, didn't get in the first time. I was shortlisted, and then I tried for the Guildhall and I got in there. But my uncle Derek, who married my mother's sister gave me my first job, to be honest. He was a lovely man. And my first job was at the Grand Theatre, Wolverhampton, understudy to the Fairy and ASM, which is assistant stage manager, for the pantomime. Before I went to Guildhall, I have to say, I had about a year doing bits of work. And he got me my equity card, which was really hard to get in those days. And I got paid £7.50 a week.
Wow.
And my digs were 5. And I was 17. And then did a children's theatre thing. Then I went to Guildhall for 2 years. Then I came out and I thought I was going to be, I always wanted to be Shakespeare, and I wanted Judi Dench's career, really. All those dames, that's the career I wanted, because I was trained. I was pretty good at it at the time. But then I suddenly found myself in light entertainment, because the thing is, as an actor, you get offered something, you think, oh, I'm going to, okay, I'll do that. And suddenly you're being seen as one thing. And I was a hostess on the Golden Shot for a short, I was one of the maids of the month. And I took over when Anne Aston went on holiday. And funnily enough, that was with Charlie Williams, with the actual comedian Charlie Williams, who did it for a while. At the same time, I had a few episodes of Crossroads. I was doing
I remember Crossroads, yeah. That was great.
Well, yeah, I played a flighty piece. He was having an affair with a married man, and his wife turned up, as far as I remember. It's about 6 episodes, and I had this line. He said, "I think we should take precautions," and I said, "I do." That was about 72, 73, something like that. Anyway, so I got into this light entertainment and not really where I wanted to be. And it wasn't until I got a job in Africa. There was a theatre called the Donovan Mall in Nairobi in Kenya, and it used to advertise in Contacts, which was the actors' sort of Bible, really. And they did 4 weekly rep, which means they changed the play every 4 weeks, which was a wonderful thing. Anyway, I had a broken engagement, and I was thinking, I wrote a letter just at the right time, and I had a telegram, which shows you how long ago it was. Telegram says, "Oh, there's a job for you if you can get ready, get your injections, do all this in 2 weeks. There's a job for you." And I thought, yeah, I'm off for a year, and in fact, I stayed 18 months. And out there, we did a lot of great plays. And you were allowed to do plays that were on in the West End, which you can't do. You can't do a play in repertory theatre here, and not that there's much rep now, if it's on in the West End, or you couldn't in those days. So we did Equus. We did things like Glass Menagerie. We did lots of the current Eightbourne plays that were coming around then, as well as all sorts of things. And towards the end of that time, I got to play Jill Mason in Equus, which, if anyone saw the Jenny Agutter, the film, will know what that means. I played Laura in the Glass Menagerie, which I think was probably the best thing I did, and various other things.
But acting has always been your passion.
Yes.
I'll tell you what, I can't wait to actually go into your house and start looking through the memorabilia. Should we go and check out some of the...
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
Back to at the cab, and we're at Jill's place, and she's going to actually go through some of the memorabilia. I'll be honest, I've looked through some of this, and look, this is. Can you tell me about this? I mean, look at the font. Look at the font on that as well.
Yeah, the trouble is I actually don't know where this one came from, but if you look at the legs, his trademark was having elastic legs and winding them round and doing.
That's right.
And so look how someone's captured that, which is wonderful.
That's incredible.
I mean, this is my wonderful, and I have to be very careful of this. I will open it. I've been trying to get it I'm trying to get it restored. Yeah. I've tried various avenues of programs and things. This is a poster. That would have been outside the Folies Bergère in Paris when he performed there with Josephine Baker, and he was there for a while. But you see, Folies Bergère, Paris. This would have been outside. as I think, a billboard,
Yeah.
or maybe just inside the theatre. But the fact that it's actually got the person who did it as well,
Marcel.
I don't have to know.
What's 27? Is that the
No,
year?
1927.
Wow, so this is actually from 1927.
Yes.
It's mind-blowing to see this.
I know, that's why I wanted you to come in and see a few things. Oh yeah, we've got some posters here. He's there.
Are is this original as well?
This is an original poster. Jack Stanford, Britain's famous eccentric dancer, just returned from his continental triumphs. And this one, you might be more interested in this because the London Music Hall Shoreditch.
Yeah.
Which of course Shoreditch being so Shoreditch High Street, and there he is, the world's greatest eccentric dancer.
I mean, this is like this is gold, absolute gold dust.
Can I show?
Jill, absolute
I'll
gold
show you
dust.
some pictures of my mother. But they did the mirror dance, you know, the mirror dance. The one would be one side and the one would be. It's a famous sort of dance routine. But my mother always. That was my mother, and that's my Aunt Joan.
Have a little look. So that's your mum there.
Yes. And Yvonne Lund, who did these photos, was very famous photographer. I mean,
And
look
who's
at the style of these, though. Look at that. That's beautiful.
That's incredible. Look.
So much, I mean, there's a whole-
Is your mum in this photo?
Oh yes. I mean, she's
That's your-
that's her.
That's your mum on the
And
left.
that's her. Yes. I don't know. That's just background, and they used to make all their own costumes as well.
Puppeteer kind of dance.
But anyway, so she had a career as well,
Hmm.
and did some acting once her sister married first.
I mean, look at them moves. It's like ballet dancing.
Well,
moves
they
there.
were trained in all that. Their ballet shoes.
Yeah.
They were trained. They went to Faye Compton's studio, and that was like a stage school.
So yeah, what have we got here then?
Well, these are just photos of my father at various times. There's a fairly young man.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I call a straight photo of him, not doing his comedy.
And he's rocking the round glasses. Was that the kind of the fashion?
Yeah.
Obviously, the fashion back then.
Yeah.
The round glasses.
I think he was very cool.
Very stylish. I mean, look at that! What an incredible photo. I mean, you got your dad there with that crazy. Look at that shadow.
Yeah, it's great.
I mean, that's a fantastic.
It's a bit damaged, but that shows him quite young. And quite fond of Rennie Houston. Before we met.
I mean, I'm blown away by this one as well. Look at this. I mean,
This is early. This is when he was 16, and when he was in this Pierrot troupe.
yeah.
That's him there. He was 16 and he joined this troupe. That was one of his first jobs, and his name was still Charlie Williams then.
Should we go through the scrapbook?
Yeah.
I mean, look at this.
Well, this is one he put together. As you can see, it also needs restoring. I mean, you can see the end of his name there.
Yeah.
Jack Stanford, the dancing fool. Anyway, this starts really right. When I suppose when he thought he should start doing it. 1922 there, 25 there. Let's see, we've got
These are all clippings from.
different newspapers. Illustrated Sunday Herald, February 1925, and that's him obviously. Right, the Cosmo Club Cabaret, the Pavlov, 1926. So this is before he went to Paris.
Yeah.
Someone's calling the Pavlova of comedy dancing, and you know Pavlova was one of the best
Right. I didn't know.
ballet. Yeah.
I mean, as I say, you know, your dad was an absolute incredible, legendary dancer.
And I never
who-
realised I never saw the films till after he died
Yeah.
in 1967. But here, have you noticed with these cartoons that we've been showing you, they did so much of this in the newspapers. This is 1926, the News of the World. But there he is, Jack, I think. That's him, Jack Stanford. So I must stop putting my finger in. But then we have the London Coliseum. That's when he was there, which is famous theatre. The funniest of dancers from the Café de Paris and other West End cabarets. Now we come on to the Folie Bergère, which is where the poster, the big yellow poster is. Yeah. So he would have, I don't
And
know
this
what...
was in Paris?
In Paris. It's a famous, very famous venue. Like the Café de Paris. Folie Bergère is it's still going. So he would have, I mean, he was born in the 26th of June, 1900, so he's either 26 or 27 here. But to have his name there with Josephine Baker, if you do any research on Josephine Baker, you'll realise how big that was.
Wow.
And then we have these, which actually shows his dancing.
I mean, that's the move I was on about. Flicking the left leg behind the right.
But it was more
Or the right leg behind the left leg.
I mean, it is eccentric dancing, and there's a great history of eccentric dancing.
I mean, the attention to the detail, all these little...
And he was self-taught. So when he says that somebody stole a routine from him, it's probably true. I mean, there you can see them. That's from one of his, obviously someone's filmed him, and that's the different.
Well, I also got that clip of your dad dancing.
There's 3 online.
Yeah, I put one online because I'm going to, anyone watching this, I'm going to attach it to this interview, and I've put like an updated kind of song behind it. Because your dad, you know, the dance movements he was doing, people of today are doing these kind of moves nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many. I mean, this is him looking handsome, if you like. And it's an advert, so I don't know what it's for. 1920, and there you see him. But unfortunately, practically every.
Yeah.
And they, see all the. Yeah.
It's quite mad that, you know, he was also known as like the dancing fool, but I suppose that was kind of, you know, it was all kind of an act, and I suppose...
Oh yes, because look how cool he is. Look, the trouble is, every single photo of him is just in, you know, being himself. Has a cigarette either in his hand or in his mouth. Well, it killed him. I mean, again, all these wonderful cartoons that were all the newspapers did of the performers. They're incredible. And this Cochrane shows were this was a big name. Wake Up and Dream.
I mean, these
are big names.
Are they? Yeah.
Sunny Hale.
Sunny Hale. Laurie Devine.
Madeline Gibson.
Stanford.
Yeah. But again, all these wonderful. Here he is in Blackpool in 1930, still with the Sheffield Empire. But it toured. This show toured. In fact, it toured to Streatham Hill Theatre. But what happened was that not everybody was in it every week. Right. And I know that my dad wasn't in it at Streatham Hill Theatre, but he was in it in various other places. It just depends. If he had a better offer, he probably was doing something else.
Was your dad always pretty fully booked?
In these eras, 20s, 30s, yes, and yes, even so, up to. He probably stopped working when he was about 62.
I mean, look at these fonts. Look at
that. Stanford El Unico. Look at them in their swimming costumes.
Yeah.
These are all, you know, this is Barcelona. So these are his private things, you know, that he's put it, but private, but not that private. And, George Robey, he was very famous. Oh, and he liked a bit of golf. There, a dancing genius, raw command artist. But they do say some incredible things. But you asked me earlier, believe me, Jack Stanford is no dancing fool. He is a dancing genius. And when I say that, it's with a definite knowledge of having seen many music hall dancers. Jack Stanford is a two-gun man when it comes to stepping it and twirling in
before an audience. And if the royal patrons do not find a whole fund of entertainment in this wild eccentricities, then I am
a pretty bad judge.
Yeah.
But I mean, I mean, I think there's better than that. But Yeah,
mean,
so that's the raw that's the raw variety, 1931.
mm,
You know, and there we go. We've got Gracie Fields. You know Gracie Fields.
yeah.
He has a good reviews at the raw variety. The King's Laughter. I think he did 2 raw varieties. Palladium. He did one in Windsor Castle during the war when they were actually told to come to Windsor Castle and entertain the then King. That's the one.
1931.
That's the Palladium. But in the Second World War, he did one at Windsor Castle, so that was much later. And he always puts a straight man picture in with all these.
Is there some real legends here?
Well, we've got Gracie Fields again.
Mm.
I mean, most of them are terribly well known in Max Miller. I don't know what this film is, because I don't think it might be, no, because I don't think I've got one that says 1932 anywhere, but there we go.
Mm.
And, yeah.
Did you put all this together? This
No, he did it.
really?
This is his scrapbook. He made it of his career, why it's in the condition it's in. And there's my mother when he met her when they were working together.
Mm.
The twins, one either side. There she is. There, the Volanov.
Yeah.
It's funny. These were called the Rolling Stones. This group.
No.
Yeah.
Seriously, the Rolling Stones.
1937.
Obviously, this is before the supergroup, the Rolling Stones
Well,
of our time.
Of course.
So I wonder how they got the name the Rolling Stones.
I don't know. Well, I don't know if they know that. Yeah.
So they're the original Rolling Stones.
They are, yeah.
Brilliant.
This is now, you see, we're getting older now. 1938. Then he started doing lots of pantomime, playing things now that you'd get a soap star doing.
Mm.
Buttons. That wasn't Buttons and Goody Two Shoes. So I can't remember what it's called in that one. But these were old proper pantos. And then these are big #1 pantos. Panama Hattie, that was a very big show, and that's when he appeared with Max Wall. So we've got my father, Richard Hearn, who was also known as Mr. Pastry, and Max Wall were all together. So that's when they worked together. And is it B.B. Daniels? I can't quite remember the woman.
Did Max Wall, didn't he have some kind of like crazy dance going on as well back in the day? He was renowned for one of his type of dances.
Exactly.
Kicking the legs.
Yeah, I mean, yes. You see, we're getting right to the end when he sort of stopped.
Yeah.
And that's probably when he really realised he was ill, you know.
Yeah.
He wrote me a book, he made a book, which I haven't got anymore. He sort of did it with. So he's talking about me there, but I think I went to see here, but obviously the work is getting less, the work is getting lower.
Yeah.
Not the calibre that it was,
Yeah.
So he's just lost interest, hasn't he?
Yeah.
In doing any more in that, and also it's sort of come to an end. But he never started another one. But yes, I mean, it was important to him. All this was important to him.
Well, I'm literally blown away by seeing this, Jill. And I'm so glad that after our interview we come in to have a look at this memorabilia, because it's something special that you've got here, and also something special that your dad put together and kept, because this could have all been quite easily lost. I'll be honest, there needs to be some kind of huge documentations in terms of maybe like a book with all this stuff in it.
I need to write. I mean, I've written articles, I've written short things.
But this needs to go to like a publisher's. This needs to go.
Write a book.
Well, we I think everyone needs to get together and publish some kind of book in memory of your dad. As I said in the cab, he's a very special guy, and for what he done, as I said once again, in the cab, there was no television. There was probably very little electricity going around then. There was no internet or anything like that.
Well,
So,
like that.
you know, people went to these theatres to see legends like your dad perform, which was kind of like, you know, a ray of light for them. You know, to see dancers and eccentric dancers and actors like your dad must have been pretty special.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for, taking an interest. It's wonderful.
I hope you enjoyed this little cad chat as well.
Yeah.
It's been quite special.